This story begins in the American city of New York in the year 1841. It was a time when humans were treated as slaves and bought and sold like animals in a market. People would purchase other humans and keep them as their slaves for life. Here, we are introduced to a man named Solomon Northup. He is a free African American living in New York with his wife and 2 children. His family is happy and lacks nothing. Solomon is a skilled musician, and because of his talent, people respect him greatly. One day, a friend of Solomon introduces him to 2 white men, one named Brown and the other named Hamilton. They offer him a job in Washington, where he will play the violin. They promise to pay him $70 per week and an additional $50 on performance days, a significant amount at the time. Solomon agrees to their offer and travels with them to Washington. They dine together at a restaurant. The next morning, when Solomon wakes up, he finds himself locked in a room with chains around his legs. Shocked and confused, he realizes that the 2 men must have drugged his drink, causing him to pass out. Now he's a prisoner. 2 men enter the room, and Solomon insists that he is not a slave, but a free man from New York. They, however, claim he is a runaway from Georgia and begin beating him without cause. Solomon is not the only one. There are other black people with him, including a family. Next, we see them being transported on a ship to another location. At night, while everyone is asleep, a white man tries to take a woman away with him. She has no choice but to go with him because her children are also on board, and she fears they might be harmed. One of the men among them tries to stop the white man, but he is stabbed and killed. The next morning, his body is thrown into the sea. Slaves' lives were considered worthless in those days. After disembarking from the ship, the slaves are seated in a line, and names are called. When the name Platt is called, no one stands up. The man walks up to Solomon and asks why he didn't respond. Solomon replies, "My name is not Platt, it's Solomon Northup." Before he can say more, he is slapped hard in the face and silenced. They are then taken to a house where other slaves are being held. This is essentially a showroom, not for clothes or shoes, but for selling human beings. The captives are stripped and lined up naked, including the women, and an auction is held. Solomon, now called Platt, and a woman with 2 children are bought for $100 by a man. The woman begs the buyer to purchase her children too, promising to serve him for life. He wants to buy only the little girl, but the seller refuses, saying she's still a blooming rose and will fetch a higher price later. Thus, the mother is separated from her children and cries for them for days, but her tears hold no value. Solomon and the woman are bought by a kind man. Here Solomon must hide his identity, his fellow slave warns, not to reveal that he is a free man or that he can read and write if he wants to survive. The slaves' work here involves chopping wood from the forest and turning it into lumber. Their new owner is a decent man. Solomon wants to win his trust in hopes of gaining his freedom and returning to his family. The slaves use transport to move the wood, but Solomon suggests that they could use the water to float the logs and save on costs and labor. The supervisor mocks him, asking if he's an engineer. The supervisor later lies to the owner, saying the water is too deep. Solomon, however, insists it can be done. The owner lets him try, and Solomon proves himself right. Impressed, the owner gives him a violin. He values educated and capable people and treats Solomon well. But this makes the supervisor jealous. He looks for ways to get revenge. One day, he assigns Solomon the task of building a wooden house. Solomon does an excellent job, but the supervisor falsely points out many flaws. Solomon calmly responds that if there are any flaws, they are in his understanding, not in the work itself. If you'd like a shorter summary, subtitle, or a professional video description of this in English, I can provide that too. Here's the English translation of your detailed continuation of the story. After hearing Solomon say that he built the house properly, the supervisor becomes furious. He pulls out his belt and orders Solomon to take off his shirt. But Solomon refuses, as he believes he hasn't done anything wrong. Physical altercation breaks out between them. Solomon grabs the supervisor's belt and beats him instead. Another supervisor arrives and stops the fight. Asking what is going on, Solomon lies to protect himself, saying, "I was using the nails you gave me, and that's why he tried to hit me," the second supervisor replies. "If you want to stay alive, don't move from here." Solomon is left alone until 3 men, including the supervisor he fought with, return. They tie his hands and legs, place a noose around his neck, and hang him from a tree. Solomon struggles to breathe. Just then, a man with a gun shows up and orders them to release Solomon, saying, "If you value your lives, let him go, he belongs to my master." It wasn't about Solomon's life. It was about money. Slaves were expensive, and no one wanted to lose their investment. The 3 men run away, but not before the vengeful supervisor warns Solomon, "I won't let you go." That is Eli. The man who saved Solomon calls for his horse and sends someone to fetch his master. Meanwhile, Solomon is still hanging by the neck, standing on his toes to avoid full suspension. Hours pass like this. People walk by, ignoring him. His life means nothing to them. Eventually, his master arrives, cuts him down, and takes him home. He tells Solomon, "That supervisor will kill you, and I won't be able to stop it. That's why I sold you." Solomon pleads, "I was a free man before coming here. Please send me home." The master replies, "I can't help you. In debt myself, I sold you to save your life." Solomon is then sent to another plantation where they harvest cotton. The new master is cruel. Every evening, he checks how much cotton each slave has picked. If anyone collects less than 100 pounds, they are whipped. One girl named Patsy picks 250 pounds. Every day more than double what anyone else can. The master is impressed by Patsy, but also has lustful intentions toward her. This is common. Slaves had no dignity or protection. Their masters could do whatever they wanted. One night while the slaves are resting, a man comes and says the master has called them. It turns out he wants them to dance, something he often does for his amusement. Though none of them want to, they are forced to perform even during their only rest time. While they dance, the master's wife becomes jealous of Patsy and smashes a bottle over her face. She knows her husband has his eye on Patsy. She demands her husband sell the girl. He refuses, saying Patsy is too valuable. The mistress then calls Solomon and hands him a list. She asks, "Can you read and write?" Solomon lies and says no. She taunts him, "Why would a slave need to read or write? If you try anything, you'll be whipped." Solomon is sent to the market. By now, he is exhausted and hopeless. He decides to escape. As he flees through the woods, he sees a group of white men hanging black slaves. They stop him and ask who he belongs to. Solomon quickly lies, saying his master sent him to the market. They spot a tag around his neck. Slaves wore them to identify their owners and let him go. He abandons his escape plan and heads to the market, realizing he must survive to see his family again. Time passes, years go by in slavery. In a later scene, Patsy's master assaults her. She doesn't want it, but she has no choice. One night, Patsy comes to Solomon and gives him a stolen ring. "This belongs to the mistress," she says. "I stole it for you. But in return, you must do me a favor." Solomon asks, "What favor?" Patsy replies, "You must kill me." A shocked Solomon says, "What are you talking about? I can't do that." Patsy pleads, "If I can't buy my death, then please give it to me as a gift. I can't live like this anymore." Solomon refuses, and Patsy walks away heartbroken. Meanwhile, for 2 straight years, the cotton crop fails. The plantation suffers losses, and the master rents out his slaves, including Solomon, to another place owned by a judge. There they harvest sugarcane. Solomon gets a chance to play the violin at a wedding and earns a little money. Eventually, they return to the original plantation. The harsh routine resumes. Anyone picking less than 100 pounds is whipped. Solomon always gets whipped because he never reaches the quota. Then a new laborer joins them. Like the others, he's a white man working as a slave for money. But when he picks less than 50 pounds, he isn't whipped. Learn over time, that's the injustice. Living among them, he befriends Solomon. One day, Solomon asks him for a favor. Can you mail a letter for me? I'll pay you." The man agrees. Solomon gives him money he earned from playing the violin and says, "I'll give you the letter in 2 days." It's a dangerous plan. If caught, they'll both be killed. The man agrees anyway, but one night, Solomon's master, drunk and holding a knife, confronts him. "I've heard one of my slaves can read and write. Is it you? Did you try to give someone a letter?" Solomon nervously denies it. Would you like the next part translated to or summarized for your video? Here is the complete English translation of your final part of the story from the film, 12 Years a Slave. "No, sir. He's lying," says Solomon. "He just wants to become a supervisor, which is why he's trying to win your favor." Solomon's explanation convinces the master, says, "I would have killed him, but he's one of us," referring to the fact that the other man is white. After that, the master walks away. Solomon, realizing the danger, burns the letter he had written. Along with it, his hopes and dreams go up in flames. Had that letter reached his family, he might have been freed. After all, Solomon wasn't born a slave, he had been kidnapped. Then, the same routine continues. He is beaten daily, humiliated constantly. Some time passes. One day, Patsy goes missing. Her master suspects she has run away. But soon, she returns. When asked where she had gone, she says she was in the fields. The master doesn't believe her and begins to beat her. Solomon steps in to protect her, but the master beats him too. Patsy then confesses the truth. She had gone to the store too, get soap because she wasn't even allowed soap to bathe. But the master, full of rage, ties her to a tree, strips her, and orders Solomon to whip her. Solomon doesn't want to, but he's forced. He starts whipping her slowly. The master gets even more furious, puts a gun to Solomon's head and says, "Whip her until she bleeds or I'll kill all of you." Solomon, with no choice, lashes her harder, tearing her skin. Seeing this, the master himself grabs the whip and beats Patsy so brutally that she collapses unconscious. Solomon is devastated by what he's seen. Hopeless and broken, he smashes his violin, the only precious thing he had from his old life. Days pass. A new man arrives to work at the plantation. He isn't a slave. He's a white man named Bass, working for money. He's a kind-hearted person. One day, while working in the sun with the slaves, the master offers Bass a drink. Bass refuses. He says, "You see my sweat, but you don't see the sweat of the slaves who've been working for you for years." The master says, "They are my slaves." Bass replies, "What if time changed and you became someone's slave? How would that feel?" The master says, "That will never happen." Bass says, "I'm only asking you to imagine." Solomon overhears this and realizes that Bass is a good man. Later, while working together, Bass asks Solomon, "Is there something in your heart you want to share?" Initially, Solomon is hesitant because he's been betrayed by a white man before, but eventually, he opens up. He tells Bass the whole truth. "I was a free man, was kidnapped and sold into slavery. If you can send word to my family, I may be freed." Bass responds, "What you're asking is very dangerous, not just for you, but for me as well. But I'll write the letter. If it helps you gain freedom, I'll be happy." A few months later, Bass leaves. Then one day, while Solomon is working in the fields with others, a carriage arrives. Two men step down, one is a policeman. The officer walks into the field and asks, "Which one of you is named Platt?" He points to Solomon and brings him forward. Another man steps out of the carriage and stands by the horse. The officer asks, "Do you know this man?" When Solomon looks carefully, his eyes fill with tears. "Mr. Parker?" He says, "Mr. Parker was a shopkeeper in New York where Solomon and his family used to buy groceries." The officer asks, "Do you have another name besides Platt?" Solomon says, "Yes. My real name is Solomon Northup." The officer asks a few more questions. Solomon answers them all correctly. The officer is convinced this is indeed Solomon Northup, who was illegally sold into slavery. Solomon hugs Mr. Parker and cries uncontrollably. His master tries to stop him from leaving, but Mr. Parker warns, If you try to stop him, I'll ruin you in court." Finally, as Solomon is leaving the plantation, Patsy calls out to him. He rushes to her and hugs her tightly. They both cry, knowing they'll never see each other again. Solomon is being freed. But Patsy must stay behind, forever trapped in that hellish place. That is her fate. The scene then cuts to Solomon returning home. His children are now grown. His daughter is married and has a son named Solomon Northup. After his grandfather, seeing his family again, Solomon breaks down in tears and says, "Forgive me." But they tell him, "You have nothing to be sorry for. You did nothing wrong." In 1853, Solomon Northup published a book titled 12 Years a Slave. After its release, it gained national recognition and respect for exposing the horrors of slavery. He raised his voice against slavery in every way possible. His legacy still stands strong today. And with that, this powerful movie ends. Would you like a condensed YouTube-ready SEO description and tags based on this summary?